Hello, dear listeners. It's me, Lily, again for the second week in a row on my own to give you a little introduction to this re-release. So when James and I talked about what we could re-release while we're away for these couple of weeks, the one that immediately came to mind for me was what turns a bad movie into a cult classic. Because we released this episode back in April 2023, and it's still to this day one of our most popular episodes. I don't know what this says about the human psyche, but we just love a bad movie. We love a flop. And the films we talk about in this episode really are that. Howard the Duck, The Room, Mommie Dearest, North Sea Hijack. In particular, James' utter disdain for The Room was quite something, when I, on the other hand, have tickets to go see it again in a couple of months' time. I'm all in. It's a great experience. Guys, if you're in London, go to the Prince Charles, go see it. Anyway, I digress. This re-release, as I mentioned, is a few years old, and something you might not know about the podcast, guys, is that when we began it, it was an idea that I put to James, and I said, I love audio. I want to get into audio. I want to work in this profession. Can you teach me how to edit? And then hopefully maybe I can get a job out of it. So he gave me some pointers. He kind of started me from knowing literally zero to getting me up and running. And through doing the podcast, I learned to edit. So there you go. That gives you a little insight as to why the the quality in these earlier episodes is not quite as strong. For some reason, I've got this quite nasal, slightly shrill tone in this episode. I hope that doesn't put you off. I've done my best to clean it up, because the amazing thing is this kind of the scheme worked. I now work at a radio station. I produce a couple of shows. And I hope you agree that the audio quality of our podcast has got much better since then. But nonetheless, I think this is one of our funnest chats. And so we wanted to play it again for you. Hopefully you'll find it entertaining. And we'll see you next week. We'll be back to usual programming. And I've just seen Salo, or Salo, as my husband tells me it's called. And so we'll be talking about the horror that is that movie. You don't want to miss that. Okay, guys, enjoy. You're shirking your responsibilities to this podcast. Welcome to Groovy Movies. My name is Lily Austin.
And my name's James Brailsford. Hello.
Hello, James. How are you doing?
I am not too bad, thank you very much. Yes, not too bad at all.
Good. So this week we are talking about bad movies that become cult classics. So not just your regular bad movie, but the ones that live on forever in bad movie history.
Yeah, I think it's possibly bad movies that are enjoyably bad is what we're talking about, because there's some films that are just plain bad and there's no entertainment value to them, or they're just bad. But we're talking about the subset of bad movies that have a fan base who love them or enjoy them or get something out of them.
The films that we love to hate.
Yeah, I guess so. Although I guess a lot of these, as we get into, hatred, they're bad films, but I don't think they're hated.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's any that anyone feels like true ill will towards. They've all perhaps over time have become people feel nostalgic or some kind of affection for them, for their badness, for the failure that they are.
Yeah, and watching the films that we're about to discuss, it did make me think, there's different types of bad film.
Okay, so are you saying there are two kinds, or is there another kind of bad film? I want to hear what your categories of bad movie are.
Well, I mean, at the moment, there's only two that I've got off the top of my head, which is trash movies, which are just movies that are just from the ground upwards, badly done in every respect, badly acted, badly created, badly produced. They're trash. And then there's I don't know quite what to call the other type of films, but there's films where clearly a lot of effort and love and passion has gone into them, but somehow it's been misguided, or the filmmaker's ambition exceeded their talent, and so what you're seeing is like this strange mismatch between ambition and ability, and that's the kind of bad film that I love.
But do you honestly think some people deliberately try and make a bad movie?
Well, I don't think anyone said. I think some of the films that we're about to discuss, they were trying to make the best possible movie they could in their life. This one, and some of them, I'm just not sure what they were doing. But
I feel like you're talking about The Room, right? We're being very cagey about the films we're going to talk about. Shall we just let's take the cards away from our
bad film cards
close
to
your chest,
right
put them down. Put them down. Let's put them out there. So we're talking about, of course, the iconic movie The Room, directed, written, produced, edited, set designed
everything
by Tommy Wiseau. Wiseau? Is that Wiseau?
Wiseau? Oh God, it's like
it's a made-up name.
Again.
FYI. So it doesn't. For this is the one exception to our rule of desperately trying to say the name correctly. I think it's okay for this. But I think it's Tommy Wiseau. And then what else have we got, James?
We've got Howard the Duck, Mommie Dearest, which is a biopic about Joan Crawford, which I'd never even heard of until you mentioned it, and obviously The Room, and Sea Hijack, which is was for quite a while, and probably until watching these again, was my favourite bad movie, because I don't have a lot of time for bad movies. I just want to watch good movies. So
I know very valid, very valid.
Call me a bit square, but that's kind of if I'm going to watch a movie, I want it to be good. So I'm very limited.
Controversial.
Controversial opinion, but I just don't have much time in my life to watch deliberate bad films or knowingly bad films. But Sea Hijack, it slipped under my own radar. I remember picking up the DVD cover for it, and the first line on the DVD cover was Roger Moore plays a guy called Fawkes who hates women but loves cats, and that was the first sentence. I was like, right, I'm in. So yeah. So a good mix, I would say. I think we've got a bit of every kind of bad movie in our selection, which is good.
Yeah, so lots to sink our teeth into. Should we start with Howard the Duck? Should we just dive right in?
Yeah, I think we should. Let's go. Open the parachute, crash land into Howard the Duck. So okay. Because I think what's good about this particular recording we're doing is that I think both of us, there's films that are new to both of us for the first time. So Howard the Duck, Howard the Duck I'm very familiar with.
Completely new to me.
Brilliant, because my relationship with Howard the Duck was the choice of our year at secondary school. I think when we were 12 or 13, we all voted for what film to watch at the end of the year, where we'd all go into the hall and we'd all sit in chairs and we'd watch. There were two televisions at the end of the hall, old school 4x3 TVs, and they put a VHS tape in of whatever film we'd selected as a whole, as a group, and we voted as a year group for Howard the Duck.
Did everyone know of its reputation?
No, not then. No, it was that's the weird thing. We were watching it because it sounded like a cool, it's got a duck in it, it's got some action in it. There was none of it was about how much of a bomb it had been, or because we were 12, 13 before the internet.
Or had you been shown the tape where they held up and these are your options? Because I can understand it. You see a duck speak with a cigar in it, you might think, oh, it's a little bit subversive.
Yeah, I can't remember what the other contenders were. I do remember we watched Scrooged one year, the Bill Murray, Scrooge tale. But I don't know what the other contenders were, but all I do know is we all sat 100 plus 12, 13-year-olds watching Howard the Duck. I remember even then thinking, this film is off, and I couldn't put my finger on it.
Interesting, because I was going to say, because a lot of people genuinely, a lot of kids love that movie, a lot of people love it. It is intensely divisive. So yeah, I was curious as to what you think of it as a preteen. But you thought it was odd.
I thought it was just not quite working. I remember I got bored towards the end, which is, even watching it now, it doesn't quite it doesn't land the third act. I mean, there's a lot of other problems before it doesn't land the third act. But my question is, so your first time seeing it as an adult film appreciator. So what were your thoughts as the film unfolded before your eyes?
Well, let me just back up and give a little context, okay?
Oh, yep, sorry. Yeah.
So the film was directed by William Hewitt, and it was produced by Gloria Katz. They're a husband and wife duo who went...
And they wrote a lot of screenplays together.
Yes, and they went to film school with George Lucas, and the three of them wrote the script for American Graffiti. So they got Oscar nominated for that. So there was a little bit of buzz around them, and George Lucas was keen to do another project with them.
And he got them to do a script doctor pass of his final draft of Star Wars, and they are credited as adding all the jokes into the script, because apparently the George Lucas draft had 0 wisecracks and quips in it, and they went through and put those in.
Oh, and those quips, they're fundamental.
Aren't you a little bit short for a stormtrooper? You know, all that kind of stuff. Or boring conversation anyway, you know, all that kind of stuff. So
love it.
So that's the husband and wife writing duo.
Exactly. So George Lucas suggests to them Howard the Duck. He was familiar with the comic book. This was a comic book created by Steve Gerber and Val Mayerick, and
a Marvel comic.
A Marvel comic, yeah. Well, initially, actually, the Duck appeared in Adventure into Fear in 1973, and then in 1976, he became his own comic book superhero. I went in deep on Howard.
Gone deep.
Well, because I was just so baffled by who this guy is.
Why? What? And why did George Lucas decide he didn't go into retirement, but he hadn't produced a feature film for a few years now. You know, he'd done Star Wars, he'd done Indiana Jones.
Yes.
And it was like, okay, Lucas, what you got for us now? What you got? And everybody in Hollywood was like, you know, everyone turned down Star Wars and everybody turned it down. So we are definitely not going to turn down George Lucas's next project.
You know who also turned down Star Wars? The special effects makeup artist. So on Howard the Duck. So he turned down Star Wars because he said, "Oh, that sounds rubbish. What a terrible name."
Rubbish,
no
yeah.
And he was like, "Oh God, I made a huge mistake. Won't make that mistake again. I'll say yes to Howard the Duck."
And this is the story of Howard the Duck. Is everyone said yes because they were like, well, we all said no to Star Wars, and look what happened there. And this ridiculous sounding premise of a duck being transported to Earth, it sounds ridiculous, but we thought that about Star Wars, so it's a yes to Howard the Duck.
So it was George Lucas's idea. Hewitt and Katz were into it, but they really wanted to make an animated film. But it was Universal Studios who picked up Howard the Duck and agreed to produce it. And they needed to bring out a summer blockbuster. And so George Lucas said, let's do Howard the Duck as a live action film.
Animatronic. The idea in the film was to do something like Roger Rabbit, which was to have cell animation Howard the Duck in composite into real people. But that would have taken too much time.
Right.
It would have actually the budget, from what I understand, the budget wouldn't have been affected. It wouldn't have cost that much more or less than what they ended up spending, just that they couldn't have got the animation done for the time for the deadline. So Luke was like, it's fine, don't worry, we'll make an animatronic duck, state of the art, it will be fine.
Yeah, it was going to be this genius, like, computer generated thing at the forefront of technology. And then they realized they couldn't do that well, so then it became animatronic. And then they realized they couldn't really, like, the puppeteering was impossible. So it ended up being a costume worn by, well, actually, initially there was a child actor. They had, like, multiple different actors playing, trying to play Howard, because it was, like, an impossible costume to act in. It was really hot in there. They'd stick a fan through his beak to give him air between takes. But yes, it ended up being played by Ed Gale. So it's basically, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest problems with the film, right? Is that it's just a person in a costume playing a duck, and that's quite clear.
I guess we should say that the basic premise is Howard the Duck lives in a parallel duck universe, and through some MacGuffin, he gets sucked out of his world via it's like a teleportation beam that drags us into his world, and so he's kind of stranded. He's a fish out of water, duck out of water, on our Earth as we know it, and and it's basically how does he get back home and all that kind of stuff. You know,
well, no, it's not, because he never leaves, right? So it's not. That's what's so mad about it, is they obviously, so apparently they didn't want there to be any context or backstory to how Howard ended up on planet Earth. He was just meant to be there, which, I mean, it's true in the comic. He lives in Duck World. The backstory is true to the comic, but their thinking was that he would just be there, no questions asked. But the studio said, no, you need to explain why a talking large duck arrived here. And so you have this backstory. But then the film quickly kind of dispenses with that. Like, he doesn't seem that concerned about getting back. He's not that confused about where he is. Like, he just rolls with it. And that's what's so confusing about the film. Like, like the plot just doesn't, like, the way anyone reacts to anything doesn't make sense.
No, literally, like, everybody should be constantly going, holy shit, there's a fucking talking, walking duck. And there's just every now and again, people look a bit, like, freaked out. But it's like...
Well, yeah, some people are really freaked out. Other people just don't, like, sure, why not? But I
mean, Lily, you're a hip and happening young woman living in London, right? Let's say it's late at night, late at night, you're by yourself and you're waiting for the bus and you happen to bump into a small but like human-sized duck. What would you say the chances are that you would take that creature home?
Well, yeah, because the main kind of thrust of the story is that he meets this girl who's in a band called Cherry Bomb, and Leah Thompson, she's played by Leah Thompson, who was also
coming off the back of Back to the Future.
Back to the Future, she'd had this hit with Back to the Future, and this was, very exciting.
Also for Universal.
Exactly. So she encounters this duck and quite quickly falls in love with him. And there, like, to me, it's not even about the fact that he's a duck. Like, I'm willing to look past that if he had a great personality that was in any way.
He's a bit of a dick.
He's a bit of a dick, but he's also like not so much of, like, because the thing with the comic was that this is a very kind of acerbic, dry. And he's like a really the kind of dark character, apparently. Like, that's kind of the funniness of it. Is like, it's a cute duck, but he's like a bit of an arsehole. And like, they apparently like just completely like defanged that for this because Universal wanted a kids movie. So you've got this weird mix of him being a bit of a misogynist because he like reads Play Duck and like it's like as a ladies' man and has like a tiny little duck condom in his wallet. So there's this like crassness to the humor, which if they really lent into, I could probably like roll with.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it like switches between that and him just being quite sort of nice but
yeah, It totally feels like they've tried to please everybody, like they've defanged him a bit and made him kid friendly, but they've not defanged him enough, so he comes across just a bit off and arsey, like I say, like, and then you kind of go, okay, is he a cutesy duck character? Do I like him? And then there's a bit where he meets Beverly's bandmates, and he's just like a total creep with them. He's like being all sexy and like, I don't know, it just the jarring shifts in what Howard's meant to be like. It's tough to follow.
He's so unappealing to be around.
like to say it's a kiddies film as well. Sorry to just go on a tangent, but it's a kiddies, but it's tonally all over. Sometimes it's a horror film, and then sometimes like there's it's only a little side moment, but I think he's being pursued by a female biker gang called Satan's Sluts.
I love that moment. All those bits I was quite into, but the problem is the film just then goes on and on and on, becomes this weird supernatural thing with this like body horror monster, a dark lord from another world. It's like, why are we in this film now? Why can't we just focus on the fact that he's a duck and you would think like he wants to go home. Like, why can't it just be about how did I end up here? Let me get back there. And then he realizes that he has a better life here because he gets to be Beverly's manager. Like, it's mad, but that I think would be, instead we had this weird monster that comes through in the final, in the last 40 minutes. It goes on and on. So random.
Which feels very tacked on. It feels like they didn't quite have an ending. It's like, well, let's just throw a monster in there and have, some action beats. It's a bad movie, but everything about it is like top tier. It's beautifully shot. It has the look. And I love how
I don't think it is beautifully shot.
My God, okay, fine. I think compared to other 80s more movies that are well remembered, I'm not trying to make a case for Howard the Duck, the cinematic
I'm not here
masterpiece.
for it. Yeah,
but what I mean is, It certainly doesn't look cheap. It certainly doesn't look like they've not bothered or not tried.
That's true.
And,
that's so true.
And but what that serves to do is to really make it jarring how badly the central character doesn't work, either as a character, like we've discussed, the tonal shifts between him being a bit creepy to being a bit endearing, but also the animatronic just does not work.
Okay, so we've talked at some length about what is bad about the movie. So why has it become a cult classic? Because at the time when it was released, it was immediately derided. They had this mad marketing strategy of not showing anyone the look of Howard the Duck, clearly because they knew everyone would be like, what the hell is this weird puppet thing? And so there was this like build up with the trailer for the film. You only ever see the back of his head, and they had weird kind of marketing videos cut with interviews with like the cast and crew who would talk about how the Duck
talking about him like as a real person.
Yeah, so weird. So when so no one had, and they cancelled screening, so no critics really saw it before it was released, and just immediately it was like derided like across the board, like to an extreme degree, I would say. Like people really enjoyed laughing at it. I guess right, because of the George Lucas connection. Like there was so much expectation because of him.
I'm struggling to say exactly what the reasons must be for it being considered a cult classic, but I think part of it is like, it is a bit like a weird, mad alternate universe where the universe splintered off from things like Back to the Future, Indiana Jones and Star Wars, and then there's this weird adjacent film, Howard the Duck, that was made by a lot of the same people and the same talent, and like they were all moving in the same circles, but it just doesn't belong in our universe. It almost feels like it's been sucked in
just
from the
like
Duck
Howard
universe.
The Duck.
Yeah.
You know what? I found something quite pleasing about the notion, because they explain in the movie that Howard, he comes from, I guess, a race of evolved ducks. So rather than, we've evolved from apes, Howard's breed evolved from ducks. So this is what would happen if our starting point had been ducks. So you'd still be a duck, but you'd be, like working an sales assistant job and wearing trousers.
Because that's how.
And
that's how evolution works.
Yeah, something about that I found quite pleasing. Like I like that kind of like pseudoscience that like is almost what a child's rationale of how things work.
Yeah, totally.
But I think for me, what I suspect makes it. Well, I think there are two things with cult classics. It's like if everyone has said it's terrible and it's become a like running joke, inevitably there's going to be this like underdog redemption arc thing where people will start to like reappraise. So it's almost like inevitable, because Howard the Duck was such the butt of every joke in cinema immediately, and for like years after, it was like almost inevitable. I think that there would be a reappraisal perhaps, or at least not really a reappraisal, because actually of all these films, this one hasn't had like a big like cinema re-release, like I looked into it, and it did get released
Blu-ray.
Yeah, exactly, it got released on Blu-ray in 2021, but before that it has come back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe because he appeared in the first Guardians of the Galaxy at the very end, voiced by Seth Green, and then again in the follow-up, and then also appeared in a Disney animated series called What If last year. Yeah,
that's like a parallel universe version of different Marvel stories. So it's still Marvel stuff. But yes, I didn't see that. Apparently, it's him talking to the Black Panther. So who knows what that's like? Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, it does seem like at some point there may well be a reboot. Leah Thompson, who as we said, played Beverly. She is now a director, and she has said on Twitter that she would love to direct a reboot of Howard the Duck, which I think would be kind of sweet.
Yeah, I think so. That I'd be interested in seeing.
Okay, so shall we move on to Mommie Dearest?
Yes, please. I'd not even heard of this film.
Oh, really? You never heard of it? I wanted to watch it for a long time. I hadn't seen it, but I'm quite into Joan Crawford. Like, I'm a bit obsessed with her. So I was very interested, because this is a film based on a memoir by her adopted daughter, Christina Crawford, where she basically savages Joan Crawford and describes how she was an incredibly abusive mother, physically and verbally. And and bizarrely, this film is made in 1981, so only 5 years before Howard the Duck, and yet it
feels like a
feels
different
like
universe.
it feels like it was made
Like-
in the 60s or something.
Yeah, it really does. It also feels like they're trying to evoke the cinema of the 60s as well, but they haven't got the budget. And what I loved Mommie Dearest, by the way. Like, I'd never seen it before, and I might actually say this was my favourite of the ones that we've watched. Like, it's really
I
blew
think
me away.
too. Same.
I was thoroughly entertained from start to end. I kind of couldn't stop watching it, but you could see that, and you can see that the director, the filmmaker, he's trying to make a good film. He's trying to make a very good film, and like, there's a lot of visual invention in it. There's a lot of interesting shot choices and things like that. And I remember thinking, oh God, you know what? These are the kind of shots that I might have chosen. And then I started thinking, God, if I had made it as a director and directed the film, would I basically have made something like Mommie Dearest, which, you know, like it just made it. I was reflecting on like what I think my talent is and what maybe actually is. I was like, oh God, maybe I'm a Mommie Dearest standard director. But they're clearly trying to make the most of what they've got. They clearly don't have a big budget, but they're trying to make it count. There's little set pieces, you know. I think they're trying to evoke old Hollywood glamour, but they just don't quite have the budget, the resources to pull it off. But you know, they're trying.
Yeah, so there was a budget of 10 million. It's directed by Frank Perry. And I thought they really, maybe to be honest, you probably have a more like tuned eye for it, but I thought it really was very successful in evoking that old Hollywood glamour thing. Like, so Faye Dunaway plays Joan Crawford, and she looks incredible.
Oh,
her costumes,
amazing.
The house they live in is just gorgeous.
Art Deco, the costumes in this film, exceptional costuming.
So we can say that for it at least. But the thing that made this film immediately become actually specifically a camp classic right from the get-go pretty much is the fact that Faye Dunaway's performance is turned up to 11. It is so full on.
Because what it feels like I'm watching the kind of drama that Joan Crawford, the actress, might appear in, playing a character like that, but this is actually meant to be Joan Crawford. So I felt like I was like going down some spiral of, you know, was she really like this? Was she? Yeah. Is this really what she was like? Like this unhinged character, like you would see in a Joan Crawford movie?
Yeah, you're so right. There's this like over performance to everything she does. When she slaps someone, she kind of like thrusts her hand forward and then holds it there. Like everything and every line is, you know, it's that whole chewing the scenery thing. It's just like every line delivered with like every ounce of kind of force behind it. It's just like,
yeah.
And what's weird about it is that it does feel a bit uncanny because Faye Dunaway, it does feel, even as you're watching it, like I researched it afterwards, and there's like lots about how she was like a nightmare to work with. All the cast, like when she was always trying to like pull tricks apparently so the camera would film her more rather than other people. Like she hated sharing scenes with anyone, and like she was just a complete nightmare, and you can kind of just feel that in her performance.
Wait, hang on. Clarification, was Faye Dunaway a nightmare or Joan Crawford?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Faye Dunaway was a nightmare when she was playing Joan Crawford in Mommie Dearest.
Oh, right.
So there's this like meta thing going on, and I honestly think, like I felt even before doing that research that like I can feel that from Faye Dunaway.
That energy.
The like the overacting of it is that she herself is like loving being this star, but also so much of the story, you know, it's weird, right? Because it's called Mommie Dearest and it's based on this memoir, but you don't really see much of Christina Crawford in it at all. It's more just about how Joan Crawford is struggling to stay relevant as an actress who's aging and kind of not had a smash hit in a few years. And that's what I feel from Faye Dunaway. I feel like this echo of Faye worrying about her own career because she was 40 when she played this part.
Oh, really? And interesting you should say about Christina's hardly in it. Like, I mean, we do see her at different stages in her life, played by different actors, but they are a complete empty shell. They're a non-character. They are the most ordinary person I think I've ever seen in film. Like, it's like a regular person who's a bit quiet and tries to be kind and nice. It's like, and it makes you realise why you don't often see those in films is because they're quite dull.
well, like, so she looks just like the real Christina Crawford.
Yes,
so it was very well cast from that respect. And because she's, you know, she's Joan Crawford's adopted daughter, and there's something you know, to be the adopted daughter of this huge movie star, I think in a way it makes sense that she is such a normal looking and seeming person.
Yeah.
But you're right, there is this like nothingness to her performance.
Nothingness.
Until she suddenly snaps, and then there are these weird moments where she's kind of a bit maniacal, like both the little one and the older one. I should say that the younger Christina Crawford was played by Mara Hobble and the older one by Diana Scarwood. And yeah, from this title, you feel like this film should be about her being a terrible mother, but actually there are these moments where she's an awful, awful mother, and then it's just more about her film career.
Yeah, and as well, Christina's relationship with her mother just seems to fluctuate. Sometimes it's like, I'm being terrorized by my mother, and then other times it's like, oh, hi, Mum, you know, come on in to the, you know, nice to see you. And it just seemed to fluctuate on a whim, seemingly.
Yes, and it was obviously meant to be an incredibly serious film, but as soon as it was released, people were like laughing at it because Faye Dunaway's performance is so extreme. But also, I also think the script is terrible. Like it jumps about. One minute she's being told she'll never be a mother, and the next minute she's being delivered a baby. Like it's all over the shop.
And like towards the end, 1 minute like her mother's unwell in bed, the next minute she's dead, and it's like. Wow, there's it's very dreamlike, the film. Dreamlike in the fact that sometimes dreams will just switch from subject to subject with no real connecting tissue.
Yes.
And the film keeps doing that. Again, it does make it it does make it a very enjoyable watch. She's like, what's happening now?
Well, I find it a very compelling watch. So yeah, in a sense it is enjoyable. But there is also, what I was going to say was there's this like weird tension between the fact that the reality of this, if we are to believe even just some of it, is that this, and I looked into it, right, and the backstory to Joan adopting, she adopted 5 children in total, and the backstory to that is very shady. The adopted agency she used, they were basically stealing babies, like, and selling them to rich people. God. Like, this all came out afterwards. So the inherent trauma behind this whole story is like so dark, and so there's this weird tension between that and what you're watching, which is like so over the top that you can't help laugh. Like I read like think pieces about it where some people don't really get why people find it funny because there is this like darkness to it. But for me, I couldn't help it. Like when Faye Dunaway is screaming no coat hangers ever. Which, by the way, I totally relate to. I hate wire hangers. They are awful.
I agree. I'm a wooden hanger guy.
They put my teeth on edge, so I understand her feeling about it. Obviously, I don't condone abusing your child for having them. I mean, as if she's shopping for her own wire hangers. But that, like, the absurdity of it, I did keep laughing when I was watching it. Like, I do completely understand that. But that's a weird tension, right?
Absolutely, yeah, because it is horrific how she's acting, but everything about it is just kind of funny.
Exactly.
You're existing in this world where Joan Crawford is this kind of like villainous character. Sometimes you're like, because she turns up in a scene, you're like, oh, what horrific thing is she going to do now? You're kind of waiting for it.
What's like face cream slathered on her face. There was that moment really linked it with Showgirls. Showgirls, which we have previously discussed, so we're not talking about this episode, but it definitely fits into the list of cult bad movies, like up there. Yeah. And there's a definite link between there, right? Because there's also that iconic scene where Gina Gershon is like rubbing cream on her face while she talks to Nomi, like slathering it on. All bad movies needs to have a moisturizer on the face.
Yeah, that was very an unsettling image of the face makeup, whatever it is, moisturizer on Joan Crawford's face for that scene. It's like from a horror film, but yeah, again, absolutely loved it. I couldn't stop watching what was unfolding on screen.
And again, I think that's it. A big performance that's so hyperbolic. It makes sense that it become like a camp classic. Like it's so drag in her performance. But I think what's amazing about it is the fact that as soon as the film came out, Paramount recognized that and then completely rejigged the marketing.
Course corrected.
Yeah, so they changed the poster to saying meet the biggest mother of them all and completely lent into that. So much so that the producer, Frank Yablans, he actually sued Paramount for the rebrand because he resented them.
Even though it probably helped the movie out.
Yeah, completely, because it wasn't a total flop. Like they made their money back. It was 19 mil for the box office against a 10 mil budget.
Probably made the money back. Talking about course correcting, so like the distributors of this film, they very wisely, almost immediately decided to repitch it as like a camp classic, which is kind of what the producer, director, writer of the other film we watched, The Room, he's since tried to do that about The Room. You know, he's since tried to say that all along he was deliberately making a bad
comedy
film. Yeah, it was all that was his intention. Whereas I don't know, The Room, Lily. This is the one that I hadn't seen this because I'd been avoiding this because it's the one that everyone talks about when it's a bad movie. And I made some ideas in my head of what it was going to be like. And I decided I didn't like it for those reasons already.
James, that is nuts. Because, yeah, I kept thinking about your perception of The Room because we talked about it, right? So The Room... Yeah, as we said before, written, produced, executive produced, directed, starring Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah.
Wiseau. I'm going to struggle with this name. Wiseau. And it is the biggest cult classic of all the bad movies.
Sure.
And at the time when we first really became friends, they were showing it at the Prince Charles Cinema almost weekly, I think. And Tommy Wiseau was coming... I think it was actually monthly. You could see him. He would come and do a Q&A after the screening, which I'm still sad about the fact that I never went to. But part of the reason I think I didn't go was because James was very against this movie from the get-go. He's like, no. Everyone talks about it as as the worst movie ever made. Screw that. I've got my own suggestion for that.
Yeah.
But I assumed you must have seen it. And then when we discussed doing this episode, you're like, oh yeah, I haven't seen it yet. God, you're making me watch The Room. How can you have an opinion of a film, Jones, before even seeing it?
Because I can, so no.
So what was your opinion?
Like,
what did you think it was going to be before you saw it?
Right. So this is the thing. When I watched The Room, it was exactly what I thought it would be like, which I know it's easy to say, but I thought it was going to be it's I can see why it's a cult classic. I can't say it's not worthy of the title. I get it, but it's what I'm realizing, it definitely isn't my kind of bad movie because it's made without any art whatsoever. They're not, Tommy Wiseau isn't trying to make the best movie ever made. I don't think he's even trying to make an average movie.
You're giving him too much credit, James. He's definitely trying his hardest. He just doesn't have any artistic ability. But he wasn't trying to make a bad movie. He was trying to make the best movie he could make that would make him a star.
I know, but like everything about it is just I'm just witnessing somebody who, okay, in that case, let's say, yeah, fine, he's trying to make his best movie. He just doesn't have even a grain of ability. So to watch things, it's just all set in this same room that's obviously a set, and like the camera work, the editing, like. All the other films we're discussing, they're actually quite good in the technical craft sense, to a better or worse degree. Even the music is this awful music, elevator music. I get that that's what makes it so enjoyably
slow
bad.
Jams music.
Yeah, but I just don't enjoy that. Like Mommie Dearest, that's my kind of bag when it comes to a bad movie. I can completely get behind it. The Room, it's kind of what I thought it was going to be, and I had a blast watching The Room. I would definitely rather watch The Room again than Howard the Duck these days, for sure.
Yeah,
but I just didn't like spending time in the Tommy Wiseau cinematic universe. I found it kind of just ultimately quite dark and sad.
I so understand that. I didn't know that it was a romantic drama. I thought so. A film called The Room, right? That kind of title invokes, I think, kind of horror movie or thriller, right? Like, I mean, I think there are literally films called The Room. So it was like quite shocking to realize that, no, this is a film about a man called Johnny who's got the best life ever, some kind of unspecified, very good job at a
financial job
with this like gorgeous, stunning femme fatale fiance, Lisa, played by Juliette Daniel, this 20-year-old who apparently was initially cast in a different role, but then the original Lisa left, and she proceeds to have an affair with Johnny's best friend Mark, played by Greg Sestero, who was also the producer on the film. And it's about her betraying him and then the sort of the tragic downward spiral that this leads to, I'm kind of even giving it more credit than what the film really is. Like, it's so beyond
absolutely
meandering. And like, Lisa talks to her mum tells her she has breast cancer. She's like,
there's a random
don't worry,
couple
mum. And then like, that's never mentioned again.
That's it. There's a random couple who just pop into this titular room and just make out for a bit and then get disturbed, and
right, because as she said, pretty much everything is filmed in this one room with the most appalling decor that I've ever seen. It's like dark purple walls and iconically these framed pictures around the place of spoons. So when you watch it in the cinema, so I had the first time I saw it was in the cinema at the
Sorry,
Prince
Lily.
Charles.
Sorry, you know me. I'm all about the cinematic experience. Talk me through the cinematic experience you had of the room.
It was amazing. So the room was packed. There was this energy, this like electricity in the air, this sort of anticipation. I haven't been to a packed cinema like that in a really, really long time. And this guy gets up on stage and he tells us that he's put in an intro, an explanation of the room into ChatGPT. So that's very entertaining. He reads that out and, he basically says, look, basically it's just a really crap movie. Enjoy. And he gives us all the rules. So like, has anyone got American footballs? Please don't throw American footballs. Spoons are fine, but they can only be plastic. And, various things like that. So already I'm like, oh, I'm getting a hint as to what's to come.
Did you bring any plastic spoons, Lily?
Well, no, because I didn't know anything about the film. So obviously not. I was ill-equipped. But the great thing is that people throw them from the back, then they hit you, then you can throw them forward. So it keeps going on and on like a sort of a Mexican wave as the film progresses. So that's great. And the downside of watching it in this setting was that I couldn't really hear much of the dialogue because people keep shouting out the whole time. I realise the dialogue is not something you want to hear.
No, they did you a fifth.
For me, it was the most satisfying cinematic experience I can remember having because it fulfilled completely my desires. Like,
criteria.
I've said before, I'm rarely surprised, but I was surprised because it actually was like more than what I was hoping. Like, I found it utterly mesmerizing to watch because it was just so beyond bad. And like, to make a bad movie, but actually with some money behind you, because as I noticed, you put in brackets, it's an estimated 6 million.
6 million.
Yes.
I wanted to bring that up just to put that in perspective. Memento that we discussed on our Timeless episode, that's a budget of just under 5 million. So, and to me, like a filmmaker, part of it is how much you make your money go very far. So anyway, so that's why I put that in there.
And that having that money is part of what makes the film so iconic because there's this like terrible green screen. There are these terrible scenes that just would never have been made if they didn't have had that budget behind them. This is the big mystery about the film is where Tommy Wiseau got that money from.
Where did the money come from?
Some people think money laundering. He claims it's from importing leather jackets from South Korea. I think that he might have turned tricks. I don't know.
Right, okay.
I mean, I don't know if
that's
he'd
a
got
lot of money. That's a lot of tricks to be
because he's not. Because that's the other. That's what's just so weird about the film. It's very creepy though. These very protracted. Oh no, there's so much to get into, James. It's amazing. It's so amazing because this film is like a fever dream of like preteen narcissism, right? Like when you're young, this may just be me, but I think it's pretty relatable, right? That you get into these sort of narcissistic fantasies sometimes about like, everyone, either imagining everyone thinks you're amazing or everyone hates you and you get them because you'll kill yourself and then they'll feel sorry for you. And all of this happens in this film. Like Tommy Wiseau, we're meant to believe everyone loves him and he's great and there's nothing wrong with him. And yet for some reason, his girlfriend cheats on him.
Because he's boring. Well,
that's what she gives, but then she clearly still... I mean, he is boring. I mean, he's just so odd.
He's such an odd presence. Like everything he utters comes out odd and awkward. It's like, and this is the charismatic character around which the entire plot is meant to orbit.
Exactly. That's what I find so compelling about it, is that I'm just staring at the screen like, I've never seen such a weird presence on screen. And then we see his butt as he's like, apparently having sex with this woman's belly button. It's like amazing.
I have to say I watched the clean version, which meant it skipped all the sex scenes, for which I'm very grateful.
What the fuck, James? What? Okay, you're shirking
sorry.
your responsibilities to this podcast.
I know.
You did that.
This is like you saying you watched 2001, but you skipped all the boring bits with the apes.
Did I do that? Did I say
no,
that?
you didn't. No, you didn't. I'm just saying it's the equivalent of.
I was going to say,
you didn't.
I could believe that I would do that, in which case I take back my criticism. But no, I don't. I remember I did sit through the apes.
Yeah, of course you did. It wasn't a slight. It was making the reference. Was that
yes,
like
I
me
can't believe
skipping
you
the
did
sex
that,
scenes?
James. Oh my god, that's.
I had issues finding it. Okay, I had issues.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well, yeah.
So the only version I could find had none of the sex scenes in.
Yeah, but anyway, the fact that Tommy Wiseau had weirdly this money to spend, that's really what's made it into a cult classic. Because those other three films were, big movies that failed. This is an independent movie that somehow had the budget for Tommy Wiseau to continue paying apparently $5,000 a week to bankroll this billboard in Hollywood. So that was up there for many years. So we had this kind of slow burn word of mouth spreading of this film. Like Judd Apatow and Paul Rudd would talk about this like incredible film. Have you seen it yet? And there'd be these like private viewings and late night showings of it. So it really was a very kind of grassroots marketing strategy.
Oh, yeah. It was a sort of, I remember reading an article about it in the noughties about this film that was being shown once a month and it had packed out screenings and people were throwing spoons at the screen. And I remember it came off my radar then and it's just slowly built and its reputation has got bigger and better. And like the other thing that, like, where did the $6 million go? Where did it go? Because it did not go on screen. But one thing I found from researching it is that he decided to shoot the film in digital and on 35mm film simultaneously. So I've found it's in the show notes. I found some behind the scenes footage and you see two cameras stuck side by side on a platform. So they are literally like on the same big head. So and you can see the camera crew, they've just got this look, they're dazed. They don't know why the fuck they're doing this, but he had to pay a film crew to operate the film camera and a digital crew to operate the digital camera. So there were two times a crew, and like, no wonder some of the camera work looks fucking shit because they've got this like Frankenstein camera setup that's like got two cameras balanced on the tripod, basically. Like, what?
It's so weird. And then they never used that footage, right? They only used the 35mm footage in the end. So it was all for nothing.
But did it really sparkle on the big screen at the Prince Charles, the 35mm film?
Well, that was the other special thing about seeing it. That was like, you've never seen a camera out of focus on such a big screen. Like, it was amazing. Right. So there was this gradual building up of notoriety around this film because I do honestly think, of all the films, it really deserves that kind of cult status. It's so bizarre in a way that I found so compelling. But you're right, it's also a bit grim and depressing.
I do agree with you. Like I want to make it quite clear that this is just my personal things I like or don't like in films. I can totally get why The Room is a cult classic and why it's got its reputation. I get it totally, but it's just not quite for me. But yeah. So I want to be clear. Like, it's if you're only going to watch one cult film, probably watch a bad film. Probably watch The Room. But
well, I read this cult. There's this cult film historian called Ernest Matthews, and he said that what makes it such a great cult film is that there's this like heartfelt sincerity about the effort itself, and that clumsiness is so close to everyday life that it makes you reflect on just how normative movie responses are. And I think that's so true, that I think what is unpleasant about the film is the fact that it actually is the closest I've ever seen to real life. And with film, we want there to be this like shiny cinematicness to it. And this film is so much close. It's like when you're watching it, you just feel Tommy Wiseau's attempt to become a star, an attempt to make something, and him just being an utterly, quite an odd man, but also very, like, there's just so much ordinariness around it. Everyone in the cast, they're all so normal,
ordinary. Yeah, quite right about how it's like a film of just everyday random shit and things not going anywhere, and like I guess that's what a lot of life is.
Exactly, yeah. So in 2013, Greg Sestero Why do I struggle so
Sister,
Guys, I'm dyslexic, so please forgive me for all mispronunciations. But he
and
wrote
and I just don't know what I'm doing.
he wrote a kind of a memoir of the making of The Room called The Disaster Artist, co-written with a journalist called Tom Bizzell. Fuck, every name I can't say. Bizzell can't.
We need to do an entire episode which is just surnames that are Smith.
Oh my God, please God, yeah. And that's what James Franco's 2017 movie the same name is based on. And I think that really was the final kind of like capitalizing on the cult status of this film. It moved it into the mainstream.
Yeah.
From a film that was a little bit more like, culty and for those in the know, to like an all-out, the worst film ever made.
Absolutely. I think now everybody has heard of The Room, even if they've not seen it. Whereas before The Disaster Artist, I'd heard of The Room, but you kind of had to be into films a little bit just to know about it, I think.
Exactly. And Tommy Wiseau.
And very timely.
Yeah, it's very, very timely that we're having this discussion because...
Hot off the press is his first film since The Room that he's produced, written, directed and starred in. It's Big Shark. I looked at the trailer and I had to double check that this wasn't like a fan-made trailer or like a boot. Sometimes they'll make trailers for films based off other clips, but that's the actual trailer. Yeah. So... I mean,
so hopefully it'll be as great as his original masterpiece.
Well, how we're talking about timelessness. I mean, in The Room, you see, he takes a timeless topic, which is love triangle. It's like cheating lovers, all that kind of stuff. It's a timeless concept, Lily, that makes it a timeless bad movie. Whereas I worry that Big Shark, by going for a genre, he might be leaving behind the timeless themes. Like, do you have any direct experience of being attacked by a big shark?
I like this idea of the timeless bad movie. Well, we'll have to watch it and find out. It comes out in April in the US, so hopefully, I'm hoping it'll get a deal in the UK shortly after. Surely the Prince Charles will want to screen it, if nowhere else. So.
Oh yeah. I'm sure they'll do a double bill with they'll probably do a double bill with The Room and Big Shark. Yeah.
Well, I want to wrap up by quickly talking about the film that you encouraged me. You got me to watch with you in place of The Room. You were like, forget what everyone says about The Room being the worst movie ever made. The worst movie ever made is North Sea Hijack. So we watched that together. And I will say that it's a very, very strong contender. I think it's more in keeping with the other ones that we've discussed because there are some good qualities to it. But we'll just talk about it quickly because we've discussed everything at length. But would you like to give us sort of a quick premise of the movie?
Sure. It's like, I was reading a bit online about this. It's like you might say loosely, it's an action film, although there's not a great deal of action in it because this was made in 1980, the same year that the book that Die Hard was based on was written. So it's.
I wrote in my notes. There is a Die Hard echo, isn't
there?
Yeah.
Quality to it, yeah. And although the James Bond franchise, of which Roger Moore was at his height of his powers when he made this, he'd just done Spy Who Loved Me, which is my favourite Bond film, and it was the biggest smash Bond film. And then he was about to do Moonraker, which had an even bigger budget and was set in space. But in the middle, he crammed in this, which is a much lower budget, and he plays like, it's clear that as an actor, he was railing against playing Bond. He was like, I want to play the anti-Bond, and oh my God, if there is ever an anti-Bond, it is Rufus Excalibur Fawkes with two small Fs.
Two small Fs, yeah. This is they clarify that two small Fs, which, by the way, in the credits they do not stick with. They've got two caps. He's got a capital F in the credits. I thought, God, they could at
really. I hadn't spotted.
I did. Why they've got to be consistent with that madness? That's not a thing.
And Psycho's Anthony Perkins plays the bad guy Kramer, and also bloody James Mason's. Yeah, they're all obviously trying to. They're all trying to break out of their various typecastings, but I'm not sure it was really effective in this film. But it's just, again, it's an odd script, odd characters. it's clear that the scriptwriter who also wrote the book that this is based on, he adapted it to screenwriting. It's clear that it was probably his first ever screenplay. And also, it just feels like he's got a bunch of views about the world and he's just expressing them very bluntly in this script. Like one of the lines, I mean, like I say, the DVD box set on the back, it says Rufus Fawkes is a man who hates women and loves cats, and that's his two themes that he keeps coming back to the character. Like, and at one point he even says there's some talk about women might end up having to die or they might be in risk, and he just says if they want equality in life, they must have equality in death.
Yes, but that's the thing. The way. Similarly to the oddness of people not reacting to Howard the Duck, as you might expect, in a consistent way.
Yeah.
In this film, it's like the writer doesn't understand that hating women doesn't mean you like literally don't want to be near them. You're like, oh no, I don't, because that's literally what this guy is like. Because
he was raised with 5 sisters who dressed him in their clothes, and so that's trauma.
Well, not even that they dressed him in his clothes, but he got their hand-me-downs, and that he lived with an aunt a maiden aunt, because his parents died when he was little, and then he married a woman who had 5 sisters. It's like the most insane backstory that I've ever heard, and I can't even explain. You need to watch it to sort of see the madness of his dislike of women. It makes no sense,
because it does make no sense. It's like a comedy version of being a misogynist. Like
exactly.
He just harumphs whenever a woman might be around or mentions, and he's got this like secretary who like she harumphs at him, and then one time when he's done something wrong, she can't wait to like jump on him. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it.
And similarly, he is clearly meant to be an alcoholic, and the way they convey that is that he every so often just gets out a big bottle of whiskey and then like down and glugs some. But like it doesn't show in any other way. He never seems drunk. It doesn't impact. He's very good at what he's doing, at his mission to. Sorry, we should explain that the story is that.
Oh yes,
some terrorists have hijacked an oil rig and are wanting a ransom for it, and he sort of scuba dives to save.
He's he's a scuba diving expert, isn't he? Yeah, he'd almost predicted that this might happen, and he had some plans.
I actually think, in some ways, it's kind of exciting. Like the story is quite good. It's just that the way it's conveyed and all the characterization is so mad.
And I do love the sequence of Roger Moore in like the military base as they're planning what to do, and he's got a crochet thing, not crochet, but like a knitting.
Yes,
needlework.
Yeah, he has this like needlepoint thing of a image of a cat, which he likes to sew because he loves cats, guys. He loves cats. So he's like sewing it to like relax himself, right?
This is Roger Moore, James Bond. Can you imagine going to see this at the cinema? Like, oh, I love that Roger Moore. That last film, which by the way it's the best Bond film ever. God, that was so good. Let's go and see this new action film that he's in.
It's just so funny that he literally wanted to go against cut type. So by doing that, so he did that by not wanting to be anywhere near women and being like, oh no, get away from me, get away from
Boo women.
And that he downs whiskey rather than sips a martini. But that's about it, really. Yeah. He's not like, I wouldn't say he's so different. He's still everything else about himself is the same. Like he's not...
why doesn't he play a shopkeeper in a little drama about his shop in a village? No, he's still playing an action hero in some kind of action film. They've just swapped the martinis for swigging whiskey from a bottle.
It's like, I don't know if you ever heard of Married at First Sight.
The TV show?
Yes, the reality TV show. This woman had been paired with this guy that she just wasn't attracted to, she didn't like. And her explanation as to why they weren't a good match was like, we don't have anything in common. I like to eat breakfast. He hates eating breakfast. I like to go to the gym. He hates going to the gym. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, surface level.
Literally. So overall, what would you say? Let's just wrap up, I think, by like correlating everything that we've learned. What are the qualities needed to make a bad movie into a cult classic, James?
You see, they always say in filmmaking you should show the audience something they've not seen before. So I think what's tying a lot of these together, possibly less so North Sea Hijack to a degree, but is that all of them present something you've never seen before, like The Room, the entire cinematic universe of The Room, the Tommy Wiseau universe. You ain't ever seen anything like that before. Same with Howard the Duck. You haven't seen a Hollywood blockbuster with this completely off duck in every respect, in its scripting, in its execution, so I haven't seen that before. And Mommie Dearest, I've never seen a biopic where it's so overblown, the performance. So there's an element of, it has to have some originality to it. It has to have something that you haven't seen before.
Definitely. I just think that the fundamental thing is there has to be a weirdness that is so unsettling that it's kind of captivating. With all these films, there was something that confused me so much. But like, it wasn't just that it was like bad. If it's bad, it makes sense and just is a bit boring, maybe.
Absolutely, there's a lot of films that are just very bland, that are a bit boring, a bit plodding, but they don't offer anything to compensate for them being a bit boring, So I think there's something there, isn't it? That it's got to have a little, either a big or like there's a large chunk of madness in The Room, and there's like bits of madness in North Sea Hijack. It's more of a conventional film than The Room is. I have to say, some great model work in North Sea Hijack as well, doesn't it?
But I think with North Sea Hijack, because it's a bit of a Trojan horse, because it seems like a pretty run-of-the-mill regular action, a pseudo like precursor to Die Hard or follow-up to James Bond, but actually the oddness in it, it's not just about Fawkes' character. Like, for some reason, there's poison on a boat that is going that's going to an oil rig. That's a big part of it. Like, we've got to poison these people with tea, the terrorists. It's like, why would you have poison on board? Like, they didn't even try and make it out to be anything else. Like, they could have said it was like, I don't know, some kind of like painkiller or something, but instead, no, poison.
Like the entire plan that Fawkes has revolves around dropping some cigarettes on the floor.
Exactly.
So there's a lot. You're so quite good. Right. It's not just the central character.
Yes.
But yeah, we're looking for a hint of madness or something a bit off to make it a classic.
Exactly. All right. Well, guys, that's it for another episode of Groovy Movies. Thanks so much for listening.
Yes, thank you very much.
So we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Groovy Movies is produced and edited by us, Lily Austin and James Brailsford. And James also produced the theme music.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Groovy Movies Pod, or email us groovymoviespod@gmail.com.
For more information about the films discussed, check out the show notes.